Welcome to the first episode of Hyper-atheistic Chris-ianity. It's quite a title. We're running with it.
It is quite the title.
It's a
Anyway, if
really
you don't know, what's what?
sorry, go ahead. Already interrupting each other
Uh,
in the first episode.
okay, this is okay. Hi, internet. I'm Chris, my friend.
Yeah, I'm hyper. I prefer not to disclose my name on the internet because terrified of what that might entail. But
Yes,
yeah, we come from rather different backgrounds though. I come from a Christian fundamentalist family, and you come from.
Christian fundamentalist Pentecostal family, so not too different.
Yeah, actually, never mind. I kind of had some implication that you were drawn in with like Islam with your parents, but then I guess I completely missed the fact that they were Pentecostals. That's actually wild. Did they get into like all of the like Pentecostal like jumping up and screaming when they're worshiping and stuff, or is that
Well, I
just
mean, in our church it's less mild, but it does happen. Like
okay?
there are times where like people start screaming out of nowhere, and people think they're prophesying or praying or so doing something. I've been
Interesting.
up front during altar calls and like I've heard people like babble the most insane crap. So when I say crap, I just mean pure crap, as in you can't understand what they're saying, like not a
Right.
word.
Yeah, I always thought it was interesting that people really couldn't understand tongues, right? Because like even in the New Testament, when the indwelling of the Holy Spirit came upon, I think was it Peter? They couldn't know it was
Peter
Paul,
and
right?
Peter and the apostles
Yeah,
was in
yeah, they
Acts
had
2.
Acts 2. Okay, yeah, yeah. Sorry, it's been a while since I read that passage, but yeah, when it came upon them, everybody could understand them. And I think in the modern era, we just don't really have that because it's like you're not supposed to be able to understand it. The Holy Spirit will witness to you what it means, which is kind of ambiguous, but I suppose.
Suppose one could say that I was gonna say something about Paul's letters because I know there's a passage in First Corinthians which talks about this, but I can't cite it off the top of my head, so I'm just going to assume that people know what I'm talking about.
First Corinthians, you said. Let me
Yeah,
just
First
look this
Corinthians,
up.
it talks about how if there's no interpreter when you have a tongue, when you speak in tongues, then you know it's all useless.
Right, right. I think that's actually pretty valid. It feels like kind of like a Joseph Smith type of thing there, though, right? Like, you know, we wouldn't know unless he translated for us what the plates were saying. But,
I
it's
mean, as a
probably not,
as a as a as a foreman, I find that offensive. I'm just kidding anyway.
but the foreman, actually, I've never heard that term before. It's former Mormon.
Yeah, former Mormon. I prefer it over Exmo.
Okay, so it looks like the passage was First Corinthians 14:2. For anyone who speaks in a tongue does not speak to men but to God. No one understands him. He utters mysteries in the Spirit. Um, he who
My
prophesies is
point was that
greater than he who speaks in tongues, unless he interprets, so the church may be edified. Interesting.
my point was that I think there's concepts of tongues, and that in the Bible, the first one was the Acts 2 thing, and the second one is the Paul thing, where he just kind of says that. Um,
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit restrictive, right? It's like in the second iteration, it would be that they didn't understand it, but in the first, it seems like everybody understood it. But
yeah, so yeah, that is that. So, Hyper,
mhm.
um, do you want to talk about your experience leaving fundamentalist Christianity?
Yeah, actually, it's such an interesting story for me personally because it didn't really happen as a result of like the fact that I wanted it or anything. Like some people, I hear this apologetic like quite often, and if anybody's Christian listening to this, it's like don't be offended, right? But like the idea that you're only leaving the faith because you want to sin or something like that. But for me, it was definitely more so that I got into theology, and I started kind of getting into, I want to say, like propositional logic at the same time, and philosophy as well. I started talking to a lot of people, and I started understanding that there was just like a lot more ideas than I first like grasped when it comes to like Christianity. So many different belief systems, and I started to try like understand the the propositions of faith. Like, I tried to understand like what the logic was behind these different interpretations, and I came into the fact that there was a lot of problems with in like internal consistency with the Bible. Not even the historicity stuff, because that's in itself that's its own issue. But when it comes to the the internal consistency of the Bible, you just have a lot of issues. I started writing a very, very long document on it, just trying to, trying to prove them false, honestly, and I just wasn't able to. I took so many sources, so many different apologetics, and it just didn't satisfy. Like the proofs themselves were just incredibly lacking, and it was not to my satisfaction that I ended up deconverting, but it was seemingly the most honest choice I had. So that's kind of where I came at. Like early on, I was taught like the scriptures from like day one. Like my parents were very, very, very careful to make sure that I knew everything about the Bible. I came to faith when I was 8, I remember, because I wrote it in the back of a Gideon Bible. I was like, this is the day that I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And it was a really cool moment. I never forgot it. And a lot along over the time, I got baptized when I was 14. Actually, I got baptized twice, I think. And just a constant rededication, the struggles in life, kind of God helped me through it, I thought. And I had, you know what, like, this is one of the more interesting ones, but it's a little bit personal. Like I had a lot of like emotional, mental struggles when I was younger, right? And like a lot of kind of like disorderly, like I don't want to say conduct, but disorderly mental states, I suppose. And I would like pray so often that I'd be like delivered of this. And the one day I like walked into church and I was like free, like, for once. And it was so transformative, I thought. It was so beautiful. And a few months later, I found myself down the same hole. And I was like, you know what? I thought God saved me from this. But that was just a passing thought, honestly. I never doubted until I was like 17 or 18. I looked into this stuff. So, yeah, it's just the Bible just doesn't line up with itself. That's one of my biggest problems with it. It feels kind of disingenuous to say that I believe when that is the case. So that's kind of where I'm at. There's a lot of arguments I could get into, but that's probably for later. So, what's your experience? Or do you have any
Oh,
questions, I suppose?
I'm sorry, I keep speaking over you
No, no,
to
no, you're good. You're good. You're good.
okay. I was raised in a Pentecostal church. Like I said, I wasn't. I mean, I didn't. I started doubting. I don't want to sound like I was some child prodigy because I wasn't, but I started doubting when I was about 14 or 15. I can't recall the exact age, but it all started with this book called A Flood of Evidence by Ken Ham and his son Bodhi Hodge, which, if any of you are familiar with that, you would know that those are young Earth creationists trying to prove the flood. And it
Yeah.
radicalized me to believing that the Earth is only 6,000 years old, that the
Yep.
flood actually did happen. And then, of course, I decided to look into it further, and then I realized that they always just misconstrue the science and the data.
Wow. You figured this out at 14?
Mm, I wouldn't say it's more like I was more like reading, lot more like light reading stuff. Like I said, I do not want to come off as some pretentious prick pretending he was a child prodigy because that was not me.
No, I mean, there's a lot of different ways in which people, they're, it seems like you'd be a little bit before your time. A lot of people only wait till they go to college and then they kind of just lose their faith because it's like an accidental, um, not really doubt, but it's like a God, are you there type thing. And they don't get into like the theology or they don't get into the science. And it's just like, my worldview really just doesn't seem to line up with reality. And then they just kind of lose it. But looking into that for yourself, I imagine that's like such an interesting experience. Like personally being
Yeah.
somebody who was taught like Bodhi Hodge and Ken Ham, it's like I have to wonder what was that? What was that like? Like how did you deal with that? Like
Oh,
the
well,
confrontation.
we had to. well, being grown up in that, you had to learn all sorts of pseudoscience and great arguments that would win you a Nobel Prize in physics, such as if Big Bang is real, then why did it explode thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I And then, of course, I remember getting to an argument with someone as a child because I argued that Pangea wasn't real.
It's so interesting. I cannot imagine having that conversation as a child. Like that's
I
so
thought
cool.
Pangea wasn't real and that the world was just kind of formed like, you know,
Yeah, just like it is.
just kind of formed how it is. You know, of course, my little young little mind couldn't grasp and still can't grasp that plate tectonics exist, but yeah,
Yeah,
that happens.
as I'm going into college, I'm kind of realizing that all of these things that I learned completely and totally incorrectly when I was younger are going to actually have to be modulated so that I can understand what the actual science is. And I suppose if there's any young Earth creationists on this, listening to this, no disses, obviously, but there's a
Bring 'em
lot of
on.
stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you might be a little bit incorrect about. Um, me personally, I still haven't gone into it like all that much. I started to understand like basic evolution and stuff through what's his name? Forrest Valkai, I think.
At
I
Forrest
watched a lot
Falcon,
of
that
yeah.
guy who runs the Reacteria channel.
Yeah, it's actually a really nice channel, and I really appreciate the way that he talks and the way that he teaches. It was honestly really informative. I wish I could have gotten a little bit more out of it, but I listened to it mainly when I was at work, so
Yeah, I listened to some Forrest Valkai too when I was. It was like 3 years ago, right? Like I started
man.
uploading like 3 years ago. Might have been around then, might have watched them then, might have not. I don't recall when I first started watching Forrest, but my point is that around that age, I became, you know, well, I wouldn't say radicalized because then it just makes me look like an extremist ideology, which one could argue younger creationism is a bit extremist in its rejection of science and
Yeah. Well, partially. The answer that I always get is that they're okay with what is it? They're okay with microevolution, but not macroevolution. They don't believe in transcending species.
I don't think that's how anything works, but okay.
So I'm sorry?
I mean, if you think about it, just microevolution is just tiny changes.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're just saying that tiny changes cannot
Yeah,
cause a
yeah.
bunch of big, cannot eventually cause a big change. It's like saying I can walk to Walmart but not to the next state.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of that's decent as an analogy for it, it feels like. But it doesn't feel as threatening when it's just like, hey, bats can kind of like adapt to their environment and stuff. And then, and like other animals can do that too. It's like, I mean, I'm not, again, I wouldn't be very good at explaining this theory because
Yeah,
I'm not an
me
evolutionary
neither.
biologist, but
Me neither. I'm not, and I don't plan to be. But my point is that eventually I stopped believing this stuff.
at what
And then,
age
of
do you think?
course, what? I stopped believing younger creationism. I didn't stop believing in the Bible. I thought the Bible was fine, but just that the Genesis account was more an allegory. And
Oh, yeah, yeah.
another eye-opening book was The Language of God by Francis Collins,
Oh, yeah.
which you know him?
Yeah, I do actually know Francis Collins. I've seen a couple debates that he was in.
Yeah, he's a theistic evolutionist, as they say in theology circles, which means he believed that God guided the process of evolution.
Yeah, I actually listened to this really interesting podcast. I think it was Alex O'Connor's podcast where he brought in Rhett's from Rhett and Link, and he talked about one of the books that eventually deconverted him or like had a very big impact on deconverting him, which was the explanation of like evolutionary Jesus, like the God can work in an evolutionary way and it's completely fine and we can rectify it. And he got really confused and he was like, what's going on here? Does this even make sense? And then it just, but yeah.
And then
What,
we're getting to the first fun part of this whole thing.
what's that?
which was when I told my parents mm, that I believed in evolution during a late night family Bible study.
Oh, that's a
And
great time to do it.
yeah, that was a great time to do it. Like they noticed I was being a little too sympathetic to evolution. And so
Oh
they asked me,
no.
"Okay, do you believe in it?" And they're like, I was like, "Yeah."
Man,
The next week was quite literally hell on earth.
I'd imagine. That actually sounds terrifying. I know that there's
Yeah.
been a couple of times when my dad's looked at me kind of weird when I talk about the Bible like it might just be a historical document. And he's like, but it is inspired. And I'm like, yeah, it is inspired. Yep, it is inspired. Um,
Yes. So the whole point is that doing this, they would the first day I believe they took away all my electronics because I had said this. Then the next day they changed their mind, but then for multiple nights in a row, it was always arguments about evolution, and I would always break down crying, saying, "Hey, I don't believe in evolution anymore. I'm a creationist." And they're like, "No, you're not. You're just saying that to please us."
that's rough. I'm sorry. That's genuinely terrifying.
Oh yeah, it was rough on me. Eventually, I began reading The Greatest Thing Ever,
Hmm.
Reddit Atheism.
Oh no, I can only imagine where that led you. Like even
Uh,
as an agnostic atheist, I don't sympathize with the red atheists all that much. I can't lie.
okay. Technically, it wasn't Reddit atheists. It was the Quora atheists who were basically
No.
Reddit.
Okay, all right. That's slightly better, probably.
Yeah, Quora atheists, and they're basically saying that like they criticize my position of just saying anything I don't like in the Bible is an allegory.
Yeah, actually, that touches on a really interesting thing, I think, because there's this urge to just rectify the Bible when you have this belief in God. When you don't have a belief in God, you can kind of just evaluate the Bible as if it's actually claiming the things that it's claiming instead of as if it has to fit in some particular box.
And then of course there was the famous let me think. What was I thinking of actually? I don't remember. Anyway, um, there was this basically. I began kind of. There was oh no, I remember. No, I was gonna say now. There was this one time when I was on Reddit on the Christianity subreddit, and I defended the Amalekite genocide. And
Oh
looking back,
no.
that was the stupidest thing I could have done.
That was one of my first questions, I think, to my dad when I was in the middle of deconverting. It was about like why we actually genocided the Amalekites, like what was going on there? Because at this point we were killing the children of the people who had offended God. And it really touches on this like tribalistic nature of Yahweh in the Old Testament when you have this perpetual sin that is visited upon the children of the fathers who had sinned against God or the fathers who do not believe. And that's one of the biggest, like, weirdest contradictions because you have that passage in Ezekiel that talks about individuals only being responsible for their own sin. And then you have the passage in, oh, is it Leviticus?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's another one here. I think I have it on my Obsidian space. I can probably just grab it real
Okay,
quick.
so continuing with that,
Yeah.
I basically decided to grant that, it was just the New Old Testament was a flimsy historical document. There was no evidence of an Exodus. There was no evidence of an Israelite conquest of Canaan. There was no
Whoa.
evidence.
What's all?
There's no. And I basically said, yeah, the Old Testament is basically just mostly fiction.
That is a big admission. I can't imagine like that. That had to shake you pretty hard, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, then he eventually was like, eh, if I'm just saying the Bible is just if I'm just saying, yeah, more and more of the Bible stuff is bad, but this is real. Why do I draw the line? And that question of, being intellectually honest with myself, that
Yeah.
kind of was what made me maybe officially quote unquote leave Christianity.
Interesting.
And that happened when I was about 15, I
So
believe.
you don't find the morality of the Bible compelling? I don't take it.
I do not.
Hmm.
It's very I'm not going to pretend that I have a good grasp of the Bible. Some people say I have better than most,
Better than most Christians,
grasp of
probably.
better than the most, but other than that, I'm not that well informed myself as a scholar would be, but I will say that
Hmm.
I learned more about Christianity from leaving it when I was out of it than when I was in it.
Yeah,
Because
that is a really,
I didn't
sorry,
know I was Pentecostal until much, much later in my teens after I
hmm,
deconverted.
interesting. Yeah, that's just such a powerful statement there. Like when you are leaving the faith, you learn so much around the Bible that just doesn't like come across when you're just reading it as this inspired document and you're just trying to get something out of it. Because you can take anything out of the Bible if you try to. But if you're actually asking the text to tell you something, that's where I think you kind of run into issues because you're not asking the text to provide you something. You're reading something and then you're providing what you think that it means to you, which is like it it's a more direct personal approach, which can have its merits. But at the same time, it's kind of disrespectful to the context of the Bible, as well as the direct implications of what is being said at times, it feels like.
I think what I think a good idea was just looking into skeptical scholarship for me when I was an
Mm,
atheist.
yeah.
I have I have a couple Bart Ehrman courses I bought.
No way.
Yeah, I even have his full debate with Mike Lacona about whether the resurrection really happened. I've yet to watch it, but I really want to.
I really want to watch that debate too. Two actual,
I can,
like, serious
I can,
heavyweights.
yeah, I can actually, I can see if I can screen share with you if I can fix this laptop.
That'd be good. That'd be
If
really
I can
good.
fix it, then I'll screen share it with you.
Oh yeah, by the way, I did find that verse. It's Ezekiel 18:20. The soul that sinneth it shall die, the son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him. And then Exodus 25 says, Thou shalt not bow down thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Yeah. So it's just look. Let's just be frank with our audience here. Hi again, internet. None of us are Bible scholars, so
Yes, of course.
just hi.
Yes.
So internet, don't take the ball and run with this. We're just people like you, I presume,
Mm.
that are trying to learn.
Yeah,
Okay?
needless to say, like that none of this stuff means that I would be um, adverse to believing in God again. If there were to be something that suggested to me that, in fact, there's a way to rectify all of these problems, of which I've determined 14 personal ones out of probably, I think there's like a list of 50 and then a greater list of all of the different intricate contradictions. And I don't, I would be convinced, as I think as well as you would be, if God showed himself to you, or if somebody came across with, if came along with this absolutely like a good explanation, I think. I think
I think
we're just kind of looking for stuff, you know?
I think so. I can't say for certain because, human bias is a thing, but I'm a deist, so I'm prone to believing in a god again.
Hmm.
A
How,
theistic god.
how does deism feel to you? Like, do you feel like it provides explanatory power?
Yeah, I think it provides us some explanatory power. I I think it leaves room for a lot,
Hmm.
of I think it honestly leaves room, causes less problems than it solves, in my beliefs or view.
causes more problems than it
Less
solves,
problem.
or less
No, it
problems.
causes less problems than it solves.
Okay, okay, that's fair. That's fair. I've actually been trying to think about deism, but I just have a hard time multiplying that entity, you know? Like if it were to be that there is like a deity out there, I kind of wonder where, or like I kind of wonder how I get to that entity in the first
You,
place.
I honestly am fascinated with. I want to learn about. I love religions, like I love them
Hmm.
because I'm very pluralistic in my religious views. Like I tend to think, there's a spark. I think, it's kind of like what the Baha'i faith says, which is like this newer religious movement that came from
Yeah.
19th century Iran, which
Yeah, that
basically said that like there's a spark of the divine in every faith, and I like to
hmm.
believe that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's one of those universalistic type of religions. I think it really kind of it gained some spotlight, I do believe, but it's pretty small still. Like I actually took a
Yeah,
class that included a little bit on Baha'ism, and I remember this because my the curriculum I went through had me as a Christian try to explain to a hypothetical believer of the Baha'i religion why they should convert to Christianity. Which
yeah,
was it was so difficult to it's so difficult to look back at that. It's like, damn, I really didn't respect them.
yeah.
But
It's just that's the thing about religion. It kind of just makes you do things that you look back on and you're like, why did I do that?
yeah, at times it can be really, really daunting to look at
Yeah,
all of the maybe this is just a sociological thing, and a lot of people do view it as extensively sociological, but when you look at the actions that you're doing towards people, a lot of those things are kind of hurtful. And they could be taken very badly. And a lot of them come across very insensitive, and it's not exactly the most caring view that I can think of.
yeah, I
But
think so. I tend to think that, you know, as a man, as a self-proclaimed man of history, note the word self-proclaimed.
yep, yep.
Uh, I tend to. I'm not a historian. I'm not trained in historical methodology. I do plan to be though. So stay tuned for when we continue this podcast to watch me learn more about stuff. But
Oh yeah,
point aside, look, we gotta get that advertising in Hyper.
yeah. So the advertising, we should advertise this podcast. People would love to hear about two people who are barely over the what age is it? The age that you can legally buy NyQuil. What can you even do at 18? I forgot. Uh, but yeah, two
Drive, I guess.
people. Yeah, true, true. Two people who have barely been able to attain default driver's licenses talk about theology and philosophy and religion, history.
History.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wild. Yeah, but yeah, hope that people actually like this. It's a little bit more of a layman's approach, I suppose. I would love to
Yeah,
delve
I'm
into
down.
actual argumentation because I feel like for this one I've been kind of lax in how I've formalized my statements, but
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. The next podcast episode will be better anyway.
yeah, 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 it will be. It will be. Everybody should tune
Cool.
in next week.
I'm just okay. Enough advertising. What was I saying before that? Oh, self-proclaimed man of history.
Yes.
Yes, as a self-proclaimed man of history, I tend to think that you know things that God would leave convincing historical proof in the records that we see.
Mm, yeah. This is
I
one of the
tend to think
hardest
that
parts that like I think I see in Christianity because you have the problem of historical authorship right off the bat. Like it's not really contentious among like at least any type of skeptical scholar to say that the original four gospels were anonymous, and we don't really have a guarantee that these books were written by who they are named after. And for a lot of them, there's actually some definite issues. Wha-
I
the
actually do.
sorry,
Yeah. What
go
were you
ahead.
gonna say?
I was just going to mention
Oh,
about
okay.
the disciple that Jesus loved, the book that he wrote. I think it's John, if I'm correct. Um,
I
when you
have
were,
some insight into those. I have some insight into those two things.
go ahead, go ahead. That'd be honestly awesome. I'd
Okay,
love to hear that.
adjusting. Okay, okay, time to do this. Adjusting nerd glasses. The Greek word for the word that is used in the Greek of the authorship of gospel. So, for example, the word there is like I believe. Just look it up to double verify this. So you have the the original word I believe is kata, which is when we say according to, which does not specify I wrote this, I John wrote this, I Luke wrote this. It denotes a source, which basically
Mm.
means I, the anonymous author, am claiming a source from Luke, or I, the anonymous author, am claiming a source from the beloved disciple, or I, the anonymous author, am claiming a source from Mark, and so on.
Yeah, and that just kind of that provides to me a lot of big question marks because usually when we treat the words that people are saying, we don't just treat their claims as this the first thing, right? Especially when the claims are all that we have. Like for example, like let's say I tell you that something occurred in the future, or wait, no, sorry, in the past. Some like let's say I say 9/11 happened, right? And you can just look that
Yeah.
up. You can say, "Oh, I can search this up and 9/11 seems to have happened." Yep, cool. Um, but for the biblical authors, we kind of have to have this idea that they were witnesses because otherwise what's the value of their claims? Like they could have gotten this from witnesses, but in that case, they'd be second order sources. They'd be third order sources. Maybe if they're getting this, and especially considering the earliest gospel was like in the 60s, considered to be Mark. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we
Yeah,
treating
so
these claims so different than we would anything
I,
else? This is 30 years after the death of Jesus.
I genuinely want to look into biblical studies so much more because it's such a fascinating field when you strip away all the apologetics and don't look at and just pretending that the entire field is just Bart Ehrman and everything one just repeats him as like a mindless zombie.
Yeah, that's okay. That's so fair because I've actually stopped looking for stuff by Bart Ehrman ever since I kind of understood that because I want to make sure that I'm not just ingesting stuff from the one guy who says the stuff about Jesus. It's like there's so many people. It's just a lot of them are
I mean,
not public fa facing figures.
yeah, yeah. The Bart, I like think Bart Ehrman is so popular because he's obviously just makes his stuff a lot more accessible to the
Yeah,
general public. I do appreciate.
yeah,
However, it comes at the cost of basically basically what you have is that when you have this giant ball of knowledge, it's like a giant ball of yarn, and it becomes quite time consuming to untangle it. So you just kind of give the audience catnip. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. It definitely
I'm
helps
not
that
saying
he's
I'm not saying he's purposefully dumbing it down. I'm just saying,
right. Yeah, a lot of like smart academic people they have their analysis in its pure form, and then they have the secondary bit. It's kind of like an abstract on
yeah.
a PubMed like paper or something,
Yeah.
or like any type of study.
If you, I mean, like, yeah. So I do want to get into biblical studies so I can like supplement what you're saying a bit more.
Yeah, honestly, like I need to get into more specific stuff too. I had been doing a lot more research before this, and I feel like lately I've just been way too much into philosophy, which
There's nothing.
exploring the problem of the correspondence theory of truth is really cool and everything, but what does that tell me about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? I'm not really quite sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm currently wanting to go into three fields with three subcategories for each field, except for one, which is linguistics. So technically, I have six fields to get through. Technically, seven, actually. So I have to order my stuff.
Cool. I really hope that goes well. I seem to have a drive for it.
Oh, I broke off for a second, didn't I?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay, so I had. So I was gonna say that I have three fields I want to get into, and two of them have three subcategories, so technically seven.
Okay.
Don't tell me I'm gonna disconnect again.
No, 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 you're
Thank you.
good. You're good.
Okay. Okay, so the three fields are biblical criticism, Egyptology, and Chinese studies, so like the study of the history and culture and traditions of ancient China.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm considering replacing Egyptology or biblical criticism with something else like Buddhist studies,
Oh yeah, Buddhism's
religious
pretty
studies.
interesting, honestly. Ever since I heard that one quote, like the if you see the Buddha, kill him, I've been so interested in Buddhism because like the idea of like it feels like something Nietzsche would be very critical about. Even like I'm not a Nietzsche parrot, I swear. I'm not one of those people who just says and quotes things directly from Nietzsche and never says anything else. But I feel like this is one of the things where you have like the soul that is more um, not relinquished, but there's a nature of like humility that comes with this idea. It's like you don't elevate figures beyond what they should be, and there's this idea of just like I view it so calming, but just one of the seeming benefits of being a Buddhist, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I like Buddhism, so I'm like, but then again, you know what? I should drop linguistics. That was the third thing. I should probably just drop that one for now.
Dang
That'll
it!
just
I mean,
make
I
life.
can do linguistics to keep up on that with you.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. I just gotta block my time. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Biblical studies, gotta look more into it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
So
Oh,
yeah,
I will.
that's. By the way,
I'm
have you heard the theory that the original beloved disciple in the first edition of John was Lazarus and not John?
I have never heard that theory actually. That's amazing.
I
I've
sent
never
I
even
sent you.
considered that. Is this
It's
based somewhat on the idea that the story of Lazarus is only found in John, I do
no,
believe?
it's like I. You know that article I sent you the other day, that blog post from the scholar who shall not be named?
Oh yeah.
Yes, that contained that theory and the evidence for it.
Yeah, we love the scholar who shall not be named. He's a very cool dude. Yeah, okay,
Very
it's
cool
only in the
indeed.
gospel. Wait, no, 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 no. Never mind. No, 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 no. Never mind. There's two instances of Lazarus. One in John 11, one in Luke 16, but Luke 16 does not talk about him being raised from the dead, just simply a guy who dies and then is comforted in Abraham's bosom. This is like such a. Do you want to talk about hell?
Let's talk about hell. Why not?
So the story in Luke 16 I've always found to be so interesting. Let me just pull up the chapter so I don't take anything out of context while I'm talking about it. But the
Yeah.
deal with the deal with the story is it seems like such a great depiction of what like modern or it's kind of an analog of what people would think about hell like. It's like on one side you have like these beautiful like you've got the water, you've got the you're comforted, right?
Yeah.
You have this ability to I think this is yeah, it's literally they just remember they talk about the cool water on the other side. It brings to mind that one passage in Psalms. It's like you should leave me behind beside still waters, you restore my soul, and it's just such a beautiful picture. And on the other side, you have Hades, and it's like I'm hot, I'm burning. He is in agony in the fire of Hades, and this it seems like there's a cry that comes out from this rich man, but it's not. I think this is actually what some people talk about when they talk about hell being locked from the inside. I really hate that analogy, but this might be a little bit what they're talking about because he doesn't cry out for repentance. He just says, "Abraham, have pity on me. Send Lazarus over." So that Lazarus can give me from the water, and it's like you're not repentant. You don't actually. And but this is kind of a really interesting image, I think. Like, what do you think hell looks like? Do you think it's annihilation in biblical history, or do you think it's Hades?
I think I think it depends on which gospel you read because I think one big mistake that Christian hermeneutics makes is that treating each them each gospel like they're overlapping with the other ones, like the other writers are like talking with each other and detailing the same story.
Hmm.
They're written with very different contexts, with very different audiences, with very different agendas, with very different a lot of things. So I think
Yeah.
in Matthew when he says, "Do not fear man who can kill you but can't kill the soul. Fear the Father who can kill you and your soul." I think he's referring to annihilationism there, but when it
Um,
goes to the Gospel of Luke, we see more Hades or traditional structure of hell. That's my opinion or belief.
I think actually there's a little bit more context to that verse. Um, yeah, destroy. Okay, yeah, it's destroy both soul and body in hell. Yeah, that's interesting. Matthew 10:28. Yeah, when Matthew talks about that, it's kind of interesting to me because it does seem like it's like when they talk about destroy, like what does that mean? I
Let me
suppose
look
that
up
in the
the Greek
modern,
word for it.
yeah, I was gonna just do that. I have logos not open. What the heck? I should have loaded up logos before I started.
Blue. Let me just go. Let's go to Blue Letter Bible. That's good
Ooh,
enough.
BLB. That's good enough. Yeah, that is good
What verse was that again?
enough. 10:28, Matthew.
Pulling it up right now.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Uh,
Let's see. Okay. Let's see. What is this?
all right. I need to
It says
cut out
verse.
desktop audio in the next one because or I need to only do a media capture from you because notifications keep coming through. So I'm sorry to the audience about that. Unfortunate.
Okay. Unfortunate. So, outline of biblical usage of the word uh, ablolomi, abolomi, which is this word, which is this word. I hope Hyper can edit it and show it up on the screen later.
I don't do editing sadly, so I can do a little bit of
Just
let's see
paste it on the
here.
screen. Just paste it on the screen, dude. Anyway, so everyone knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, the in the King James Bible, it translates this word into the following manner: perish 33 times, destroy 26 times, lose 22 times, be lost 5 times, lost 4 times, and miscellaneous. Okay, like not like it's translated the word miscellaneous, but as in, 2 times. An outline of biblical usage. The first definition means to destroy, as in to put out of the way entirely, abolish, put an end to, ruin, to render useless, to kill, to declare that one must be put to death. And then, of course, there's the fifth one, or as a metaphor, to devote or give over to eternal misery and hell, is the
Okay,
fifth one.
it's a metaphor. Oh yes, we love the metaphors.
Really, it's a.
Let's see here.
I mean, I don't know if how accurate that would be. I think they use Strong's Concordance, which I have to look that up.
Destroy, perish, or lose. A polymy. Let's see here. Yeah, lost, perish, mar, die, destroy. Beautiful. Brute.
Yes, it's American theologian James Strong.
Interesting. Yeah, this looks like, due to frequency, which is, it appears as destroy, perish, or lose across all of these. And I really wish I could paste all the occurrences up on here because I believe these occurrences are very, very interesting as to where they occur in. So just to give a little bit of an idea of what the context of this word is, so we have also in Matthew the same usage of this word. Now, after they had gone away, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph, saying, get up, take the child and his mother to flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you, for Herod is about to seek the child to destroy him. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it from you. For it is better that one of your members be destroyed than your whole body be thrown into hell. And this is also in Matthew. So when we're talking about hell here, it seems like even within Matthew's own text, it's talking about your limbs being destroyed or your whole body being destroyed in hell. It's not just that you'll be cast in and burned, right? With
I think so. That's what I was thinking. Like Matthew is annihilationalist, and Luke is more what's the word for eternal torment? I
Yeah,
know there's a theological word.
eternal torment. Is this Hades? Would you call it Hades?
Sure, Hades. 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 Hadesism. Hadesism.
Uh, what's the?
So Luke has the Hades view, and Matthew has the annihilationalist view. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
it seems like in the terms that appear, that destroy is most likely referring to the actual annihilation of a particular thing. Like when we talk about casting off our arms or our legs or our eyes, which of course can be termed to be metaphorical, but just a reminder, this is not what the early church fathers thought. Because we have a very famous instance of somebody cutting off an appendage due to their belief that it was causing them to sin. Uh, Cites origin, however, a lot of people would call him a heretic, so you could take that as you will.
Or, by the way, did you know that, here's a fun tidbit that I learned the other day. Did you know Justin Martyr quotes an apocryphal gospel as a valid source?
I did not know that. Oh yeah, yeah.
He
Mm.
talks about it, and you will find the citation in the Scholar Who Shall Not Be Named post. But he actually cites it, and turns out there's a passage in Justin Martyr where he says Jesus was born in a cave, which is actually found in the apocryphal Gospel of James.
Oh, that's where that thing came from. Huh.
Yes.
Wow. Uh, What the heck? Yeah, I actually heard my pastor talk about that when I was very young. He talked about um like going to the caves where they thought that Jesus might have grown or might have been born in, which is such an interesting idea. And one of these caves
Yes,
could
that's
have lied the baby Jesus.
yeah. So I would, so I think we have been like, how long has this been going on? Like an
Huh,
hour?
46 minutes, 46 minutes. So it's a little bit of rambling. Sorry if you've made it this long and are not still interested. We should delve into like an
Yes.
actual topic instead of like just kind of going with whatever. But this is a good start, just get to know how we're gonna do this and whatnot.
Yeah, of course. So, uh, are we gonna cut it off here?
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea. Let's end out in prayer. No, I'm sorry.
And let's end in prayer. Our dear Heavenly Mother,
Okay. No, 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 no,
hallowed
no, no.
be her name.
No, stop, 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 stop. We don't
I'm
want to piss off
messing.
people.
I'm messing with the Christians. Okay. I have nothing against you guys. Don't worry
Yep,
about it.
I would actually be very appreciative, and if you've made it this far without typing critiques in the chat, I would very much appreciate if you put critiques in the chat. If there's anything that I said messed up on, take everything with a word of salt or a grain of salt, right? Because like I'm not an expert, people have different arguments to this, and more than open to have discussion around what a commenter thinks. So.
Yeah. I'm not an expert either, even though I pretend to be one.
Isn't
Anyway,
that all of us, right? But anyways, yeah.
yeah.
You can close out if you
Anyway,
want.
Internet, it's been a pleasure meeting you. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.